Check out Paddy Power's new and exclusive Cash Card Plus, available to use online, at ATMs or even down the local. Paddy Power, you beauty.
Hi there, welcome along to the Racing Post Weekend Football Postcast. I'm Bruce Millington and I'm joined in the studio for the final time by Mark Langdon and Henry Hardwick. It's the final time because we're moving to our swanky new office, which is why this is a little bit of a low-budget production. We haven't got any music. We're going to have to sing this. We'll not be beating ourselves. We've got no one from Paddy Power, so I'm going to be Ed Quigley as well. I'm going to read out all the prices. But we've got an action-packed show for you. Grab a pen and paper because we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Premier League games to go through. We'll also go through the rest of the Premier League stuff, and we've got all the best bets from lower down the leagues and possibly in Europe. We'll start off, though, chaps, by having a quick chat about some of the markets that are bubbling under. I've got some really interesting ones that Paddy Power have got at the moment, which I want to get your opinions on. First of all, we're going to start with PFA Player of the Year. Paddy Power bet 10 to 11 Kevin De Bruyne, 3 Harry Kane, 14 Lukaku, 18 Jesus, 20 Silva, 20 Hazard, 20 Sane, 20 Aguero and 25 Bar. Now, we all know De Bruyne has been the man so far. But I'm going to ask you, Mark Langdon, first. Does it really matter what footballers do between August and October? Isn't it all what happens in the next few months that count?
Yeah, I definitely think that, there's a case to be made for opposing De Bruyne at those prices. I mean, I hope he wins. I tipped him at 25 to 1 in the BKO, so he hopefully can bring home the bacon there. But, you're right, because, it was about this stage last year when De Bruyne was being talked up, maybe not to the same extent, but, there is still a lot of football to be played. You could argue that Raheem Sterling or somebody like that is playing absolutely just as well at the moment. He's been out of his skin. He's already got to 10 goals this season. So I think that this collective of City is such that actually you could probably, come the end of the season, there might be 4 or 5 that you could say, what about him? What about him? So
did you back him at 25s as well as tip him, Mark?
I didn't know.
Stupid bastard.
Well, I know, yeah, but I shrewdly, because I also tipped Paul Pogba. And I've got quite a lot of eggs in the City basket anyway. I thought that was a good cover shot on a lot of City bets. That if United win it, Pogba's probably going to have to play.
But that's my point, Henry. I don't think it matters that Pogba hasn't played in the last 3 months. If he comes back from injury, or not last 3 months, but last month or so, if he comes back from injury soon, I don't know when he's due back. Do you, Mark?
No, Mourinho says he doesn't know. So
okay, fine. Well, he could come back any minute. Yeah. But you know what footballers are like when they get their voting form, they basically just think what happened on last week's match of the day, don't they? So I think it's irrelevant. Paul Pogba's 33 to 1. That's beginning to look like a little bit of value. Have you got any thoughts on where there might be a bit of value here on Player of the Year?
I think the big factor is the team that's going to win the league, which obviously looks like it's going to be City. So I'd concentrate on them. But I think Aguero could be a bit of a decent price at 20s. There's still every chance that he could finish top scorer. City will win the league. If he goes on a great run, like you say, in the last 5 games of the season. The only slight problem with that is they seem to share the goals around between him and Jesus. But, there's still a chance that he could be top scorer. And if he did and City win the league, 20 to 1 looks a decent price.
Let's have a look at young player. 5 to 4, Gabriel Jesus. 11 to 4, Leroy Sane. 4 to 1, Raheem Sterling. There's a little theme developing here. 7, Dele Alli. 7, Marcus Rashford. 12, Harry Winks. Now then, I'm going to tell you this. I know that this is sponsored by Paddy Power, but I know one firm is 33 to 1 Harry Winks. I actually think his Tottenham clubmate Dele Alli at 7 to 1 is absolutely enormous here, Mark.
Well, that would be a hat-trick of Young Player of the Year awards. Somebody asked me on Twitter recently about this, and it's always a breakout. Nearly always it goes to a breakout sort of developing player, if you like. Usually an English player. English players have got an unbelievable record. So I think Raheem Sterling definitely in this market. Harry Winks, I did actually tell the person on Twitter, he was 66 at the time, that could be the if there's one that comes out of nowhere, it could be him. But I think Raheem Sterling, given the previous winners of this, nearly always young English players, I think Raheem Sterling's definitely the bet.
Okay, I'm going to stick with Dele Alli. What about you, Henry?
Yeah, I'd concur with Mark, really, Sterling. As I say, the big factor is there who's going to win. The trouble is people just look at, it's become as like football. If you win, that's all that matters. So, if a team finishes 3rd or 4th and someone plays well for them, they sort of get overridden by the team that wins the league.
Is that definitely right? I'm not sure there's a definite relationship between it.
Less in the young player, but you have to stand out to get the votes, don't you? And if you're finishing, 4th or 5th or 3rd, and you haven't actually really achieved anything of you haven't won a trophy essentially. You might get overlooked. Where Sterling, it's going to be high profile for the team that wins the league. I think that's a fair price, to be honest.
Okay, the boys fancy Sterling, I fancy Ali. Right, let's look at LMA Manager of the Year. 8-11 Pep Guardiola with Paddy Power. 11-2 Jose. Yeah, right. 17-2 Wagner. 11-1 Marco Silva. 12-1 Pochettino. 16 Sean Dyche. Are we lumping on Pep here, Mark?
I think Pep probably will win. He could easily win a couple of trophies. In fact, I think they'll be disappointed if they don't get a couple of trophies this time. I mean, Pochettino is probably the one. If I think he's only missing a trophy, isn't he? Even if it was, say, the FA Cup, I mean, there's such a groundswell of neutral love for him at the moment in terms of what he's done over a period of time. He'd probably be the only one that I'd fancy to beat Guardiola. But I mean, Wagner would have a chance, you would think, if he keeps Huddersfield up. But because it's kind of almost half expected now that they stay up, when we get to May, it might not be seen as a bigger achievement as what it was in August, maybe, if that makes any sense.
Makes total sense. What about you, Henry? Can you look beyond Pep?
No, I say Pep's a solid favourite there. The only, like Mark says, if a team goes on like a five-match winning run at the end of the season, it keeps up someone like Chris Hughton or Wagner, they would come into the reckoning. But I mean, I think it's hard to see past Pep, really.
Let's look at top four. Paddy Power bet 1-200 Man City, 1-7 Man U, 4-11 Tottenham, 4-9 Chelsea, 6-5 Liverpool, 17-10 Arsenal, 100-1 Bar. Mark, who's going to be the two that miss out?
At the moment, I think it's probably the betting looks like it's got it right with Arsenal and Liverpool. I think that I still think that United are a bit short in this market, but the fact that they've picked up another 3 points against Tottenham, they are. It's going to take a spectacular fall from them not to make it. Maybe Chelsea are vulnerable here at the moment because they're just not. There's something not right at the club now. I'm actually think they might do okay against United on Sunday, but they would be the ones probably at the moment that you'd say are vulnerable. And I'd still take Liverpool to sneak in ahead of them at the prices, just because I think that they've been unlucky with injury so far this season. I mean, he still hasn't put out his best team once, which, I mean, it is really harsh coming into November. It might even be Christmas time before he gets his best 11 on the pitch. Maybe that will serve him in good stead come the second half of the campaign.
Do you think the market's about right here, Henry, or do you think Arsenal or Liverpool can force their way into the top four?
Yeah, I think it's totally wrong, to be honest. I think Arsenal and Liverpool should be shorter than Chelsea. I mean, I know, Liverpool and Arsenal play a way that leads them to, some dodgy results. Arsenal lost to Watford, but they play an attacking football. They create so many chances, and like Mark said, Chelsea doesn't seem to be sitting right at the moment. There's some issues there. I'm not convinced by Louise and Cahill at the back, and I think you could even back Arsenal Liverpool couple to finish above Chelsea, and then one of them gets in the top four. We've got a slight run at both of them make the top four, but I think Arsenal and Liverpool should be shorter than Chelsea.
Okay, we've got to look at the Champions League before we get on to the weekend action, because it was yet another fascinating match week. Match week 4, obviously Mark's beloved Tottenham did the business against Real Madrid in a really, really interesting professional performance that just shows what a genius this manager is, Pochettino. Okay, let's get the latest outrights from Paddy Power. 7-2 PSG, 5 Man City, 11-2 Real Madrid, 7 Barca, 8 Bayern Munich, 14's Man U, 16 Tottenham, 18 Juve, 22 Liverpool, 25 Chelsea, and 50 Bar. Mark, I was going to suggest actually for tomorrow's Racing Post we should do a little table with the top 10 teams and their prices now and where they were at the start. You'd have been pretty surprised, wouldn't you, to know that the kind of traditional big three of European football, Barcelona, Real Madrid and Bayern Munich, aren't in the front two in the betting.
Yeah, and I think there's maybe been too much of an overreaction. I mean, they're all going to qualify, and once they get into the last 16 in February, it becomes a completely different competition. I mean, particularly, Barcelona haven't done that much wrong. They're roaring along at the top of La Liga. Dembele, the replacement for Neymar, has been injured in all of that time. They're way clear of Juventus in their Champions League group. I mean, I think it's really harsh on Barcelona. I think that I don't see...
They're going to get Coutinho, by the way. I am told on very good authority that Coutinho definitely joins Barcelona in January.
Okay, well, I mean, he'd be cup-tied, wouldn't he, anyway, for Champions League. I just don't see Paris Saint-Germain as being favourites. I mean, so far, they beat a Bayern Munich team that was in complete chaos, and Ancelotti dumped a load of the big guns for that game that they won 3-0. I mean, on what other grounds have they suddenly become favourites for the Champions League? I just don't see it. I mean, even in France, I mean, they couldn't beat Marseille. They were outplayed by Lyon for large parts of that game. They've got a star-studded front three, but I mean, so have Barcelona, so have Real Madrid, Bayern Munich have got quality throughout. I mean, and so have Man City. I think that if you wanted to lay somebody here and you've got the deep enough pockets, I think that they're easily opposable at the prices at the moment.
What about if you're opening a new position?
I'd be looking to back probably the teams that you mentioned there that have all moved out. I mean, somebody like Bayern Munich had a really bad start because of what happened. Ancelotti completely lost the dressing room. Nobody was training. He dropped Hummels and Boateng, people like that. I mean, once they're back in the team, Neuer's been out. He'll be back for the knockout stages. They went off, I think it was about 8-13, something like 4-7 to qualify against Real Madrid when they went out in that quarter-final. I mean, if you're that priced to qualify against Real Madrid, you don't become a bad team in a couple of months.
Okay, Henry, what's your view on the Champions League as things stand?
Oh, without wanting to turn it into the Man City show, I think Man City, what's not to like about them? They've got so many great attacking options, big squads, score loads of goals, brilliant manager. They've just hammered Napoli in Napoli, and Napoli are a stronger side than Juventus in Serie A this season, so that was a great result. I don't, you need a bit of luck going into knockout stages. It's a slightly different competition, but they score so many goals. You can't see them going to any grounds really in Europe not scoring, and that puts them in a great position when they come back to Manchester. Yeah, and I think City, could easily, worthy second favourites, could even be favourites.
I'll tell you what, Mark, one more thing about the Champions League. This round of 16 is going to be absolutely fascinating, but winning your group now, it could be some half-decent runners-up lying in wait, mightn't there?
Yeah, there really could be. There's someone as a Spurs fan who couldn't believe that they'd win the group in the first place. They'd end up with like Bayern Munich or something. I still think you're better off. You are still better off winning the group. I mean, Kevin Pellin wrote about this last year that, everybody said, oh, Arsenal, they ended up with, Paris Saint-Germain. They ended up with Bayern Munich, didn't they, in the last 16. But actually, the other case was Barcelona, I think. So, it was a hard game, but it could have been even harder. I mean, you've got to do all you can to win your group, and then you there's still more chance of you getting an easier draw. So you have to try to win it.
Someone's going to get a tougher game because Arsenal are in it, and they always get Barca, so someone's stuffed.
Absolutely. Competition time every week. We give you the chance to win a free £25 or €25 bet, free from Paddy Power. Last week's winner was Felix Tando from Surrey. Well done, Felix. To be in with a chance of winning this week, simply tweet your answer to this question using the hashtag Postcast. Who beat Chelsea 3-0 in the Champions League on Tuesday?
Check out Paddy's new VIPP Club. Get a £10 free bet every week when you place 5 bets of £10 or more. Max £10 bonus per person per week. Excludes shops. Selected odds. Conditions and exclusions apply. 18+. BeGambleAware.org.
Okay, welcome back to the Racing Post Football Postcast. We're looking ahead to Saturday's 2 live Premier League matches. We're going to start at 12:30. It's Stoke versus Leicester. I tell you what, some tricky old Premier League games on Saturday. I remember when Harry Redknapp used to do the column in the Racing Post. It was the greatest value ever. He was, a mega-style manager, and he honestly, you cannot believe how little he used to charge us for it, and we've loved Harry evermore. But whenever you rang him up to do the column, he'd always say, God, they're a trappy set of fixtures this week. They really are. But this week, they are ultra trappy, and this one's about as tough as they get. Stoke City versus Leicester. Kick-off 12:30. Paddy Power bet 6-4 Stoke, 23-10 the draw, and 15-8 Leicester City. So, Henry Hardwick, it's a puzzle. Can you solve it?
Yeah, as you say, pretty tricky. I think the way to go is maybe Leicester draw no bet, keep the draw on your side, you get your money back. Leicester quite unlucky against West Brom, and since then they've beaten Swansea, they've beaten Leeds, they've beaten Everton. Whether that's to do with the change of manager or not, might just happen anyway. But regardless, they seem to have gone back to the attacking, pacey, counter-attacking side that they were. Gray's come into the side, done really well. Vardy looks sharp. So yeah, Stoke, they've not had a great season. They were quite quiet in the transfer window in the summer. Yeah, and I think Leicester draw no bet's the way to go.
Stoke are brutally difficult to predict here, Mark, aren't they? I mean, every single... I've fundamentally thought, I want to be against them, they look regressive, but they just keep popping up with results, don't they?
They get a result when it just feels like they're on the verge of, heading into a crisis. And actually, before the game when they won at Watford, Hughes had a pop at the supporters that didn't go down very well. And it was one of those where he sort of said, we're in a crisis, we've lost our last 2 games. And they were really unhappy because they feel like this has been a downward trend for quite some time. had he lost to Watford, that would have been thrown back in his face. Of course, they scored early and then sort of hung on.
Yeah, 3 shots in that game, 29% possession, so what's it like?
Yeah, so I'd like Leicester draw no better, 11-10 here. I mean, you look at the games that Leicester have lost this season. Arsenal, Manchester United, Liverpool, and Chelsea. So they lost the games you kind of expected them to. Maybe haven't won as many as they would have hoped. I think but under Puel they did look like a Ranieri team. It was very strong defensively. I think Gray does add a lot to that team as well. I couldn't believe that he wasn't playing. I mean, I would quite like him at Tottenham. I think he's good enough for sort of definitely top 4, top 6 team. Him, Mahrez, Vardy on the counter attack against what's not the quickest Stoke back line. I think Stoke the way to play this one. And just on Harry Redknapp, he used to always say trappy fixture, then he'd tip Arsenal. That used to be, he used to tip Arsenal every single week, and it was the right thing to do back then as well, because they did win most weeks.
Absolutely. Okay, the other live game is at 5:30. It's at the London Stadium, and it's West Ham versus Liverpool. Paddy Power make West Ham 4-1 shots. If you want to back the draw, that's 3-1, and Liverpool are 8-13. Mark, you can go first here. Liverpool, solid favs?
I think they probably will win. I mean, they picked up another couple of injuries in that victory over Maribor, so maybe I'd swerve the short odds now. I was looking Paddy Power do time of first goal, and it's over under 24 minutes, which may seem quite low, but actually away from home, the latest that we've seen a first goal in a Liverpool match this season is 29 minutes, and it's beaten it in all bar one of the games. I mean, obviously you've got the fact that they're excellent going forward playing for you, but they're also not the best defensively. There's big problems at West Ham at the moment. I mean, I think that's clear for everybody to see. Bilic, a bit like Hughes, just seems to win a game every now and again, just when it feels like the pressure is starting to build. But I mean, defensively, that they're no good. 8 goals conceded in their last 4 matches. I think Liverpool probably will win. If they had their strongest 11 out, I'd be more inclined to back them at sort of the price they are, about, was it 4-6 or something? 8-13 now.
So what's the bet then, Mark?
I'm going to go for under on the time of the first goal, which is 24 minutes at the moment. So a goal in the first 23 minutes.
Just remind me how that settled, because I've done these a couple of times, and you're sitting there looking at the game clock and the ball's out, and you're desperate for a goal. What does the game clock need to say for that bet to be cop?
Once it gets to 24 minutes, your bet's a loser. In that sense, obviously, if you back over that time, you need then a goal to actually happen, which is a strange one when you're cheering on nothing to happen, and then suddenly you do need something to happen. And maybe in those situations, you should maybe have a little cover shot on the 0-0 as well. But on this occasion, I'm going under. I mean, I don't think anybody would be going sort of a 0-0 in Liverpool matches really this season.
That's reminiscent of when I wanted to take on Chelsea when they're at home to Sunderland, so I backed both teams to score, and Sunderland won 1-0. Henry, West Ham v Liverpool.
Yeah, I think obviously Liverpool are most likely winners, but they're just too short of 8-13 for me. West Ham not the ideal to decide to take them on with, but I'm going to go West Ham draw, double chance, 11-10 Paddy Power. I think Liverpool, as I said, short enough without Mane and Lallana, possibly without Coutinho and Lovren as well. They've only won 3 away games this season. 2 of those are in the Europa League. And like Bilic needs a result really. West Ham, they've spent enough money to be doing better than they are. I don't really rate him as a manager, and he is under massive pressure. But like Mark said, they do have a habit of just pulling out results when they need them, and just literally just the price thing is, I think Liverpool are too short.
Let's rattle through the other 1, 2, 3, 4 Premier League games that are kicking off at 3 o'clock on Saturday afternoon. Like I say, they're all pretty testing. Huddersfield 17-10, the draw 2-1, West Brom 15-8. In other words, this is pretty much as close as it gets. Who's going to win this, Mark?
I think no goal scorer is the way to go in that one. I mean, Huddersfield had the 0-0 against Southampton. I think West Brom will play for they'll look to take a point, and then if they can improve on that, they will. So no goal scorer, I think, is the way to go, because Huddersfield may be slightly frustrated in the fact they won't be able to counter-attack against a Pulis team that won't attack in the first place.
They're not silly, these bookmakers. Only 5-1 the 0-0 there. What do you reckon, Hen?
Yeah, draw or no goal scorer, under 2.5, whatever you want to go with there. I think, like Mark said, West Brom will set up to try and get a point, basically. and they're not that far clear of relegation, especially with teams like Huddersfield and Burnley and Newcastle and Brighton all performing pretty well. They are not that far clear. So I can see them just setting up for a point, and any sort of those markets you want to play, it looks the way to go to me.
Newcastle are 10-11 to win at home to Bournemouth. It's 5-2 the draw, and the Cherries are 3-1. You go first, Henry.
Yeah, definitely Bournemouth 3-1 here. I think that's probably one of my best bets on the Saturday. Newcastle got an excellent manager in Rafa Benitez, but it's a different dynamic if they're even money at home to when they're 7-2, 9-2 at Spurs or Chelsea. I mean, the onus is going to be on them to attack. And I don't really see them having the attacking creativity to be able to do that. They were pretty toothless against Burnley on Monday night. And Bournemouth, although they had a slow start, they've started to pick up. And I think they're finding their feet. They've lost by 1 goal 5 times this season. So, perhaps the luck and the results haven't quite been going their way. But a 3-1, I think Bournemouth are a really good price here.
What do you reckon, Mark?
Yeah, I'd rather back Bournemouth. Newcastle are a team I think that are vulnerable at short prices because they haven't got that many goal threats. And Bournemouth, they won a similar type game at Stoke only a couple of weeks ago.
Southampton versus Burnley next. Southampton 8-13, Burnley 5-1. The draw 13-5. Mark Langdon.
I'd probably go the draw here. I mean, I thought Southampton were depressing against Brighton. I mean, they started okay, and once they scored, they didn't want to attack for the rest of the game. And you're thinking, you're better than Brighton. Like, why don't you play? They've got good attacking players. I mean, I think the manager's really holding them back at the moment. I mean, they moaned about Puel being a defensive coach. I mean, the one they've got now is even worse. And I think Burnley, the perfect kind of team to set up and frustrate. As we speak, Sean Dyche is still the manager. As long as nothing happens between now and then, I think they'll be able to get a point. I mean, they're doing so well at the moment, overperforming to what they've got quality-wise, but I can see them doing it again.
Who do you like, H?
Burnley draw, double chance. Like Mark said, Burnley, I think they played really well on Monday night. Perhaps they don't quite get the credit. They went forward really well and they created a lot of chances against Newcastle, really. And like Southampton, it is a really strange one. They've got good attacking players. They've got a great stadium, great club, but then they played the most dire football we've ever seen, like in the Premier League. So yeah, that would be my way going. The only slight concern is the Dyche situation. Whether if he goes to Everton or his big speculation, maybe hold back. But yeah, if he's still there, great manager, and I think they can get a result.
Okay, the other 3:00 game is Swansea versus Brighton. Now, the one thing I do know about this, there will be lots and lots of passes. Wouldn't be surprised if there's 1,000 passes here because they really do tap it about, these two. It's 13-10 Swansea, 21-10 the draw, 23-10 Brighton and Hove Albion. What do you think will happen here, Henry Hardwick?
I think it probably be a narrow Brighton win. Well, I backed Brighton on a handicap at the start of the season, so I hope they can keep picking up points. Yeah, I just like everything about Brighton, really. The way they set up, the manager gets them well drilled, very good defensively. They try and play out the pack. They play the right way. Like you said, it's going to be pass fest. And I just think they again with Swansea, the onus to attack. But when you haven't really got that many attacking threats, they're very reliant on Tammy Abraham. It's difficult for them to want to support teams at short prices when they struggle to break teams down. So, yeah, I can see maybe Brighton nicking it 1-0 or something.
You got a strong view here, Mark?
Not a strong view. I was just looking maybe at Tammy Abraham to score first. I mean, Henry there was talking about the lack of goal threats in that Swansea team. He's the one that stands out by a long way. Swansea did win a similar game against Huddersfield, recently, but they are a team that, outside of Abraham, I don't see that many goal threats. Brighton, I thought they did okay against Southampton, but they didn't start very well. They conceded the early goal, and I wouldn't be surprised if this finished 1-1 or something like that, but I'll go for Tammy Abraham to score first. I think he's the best player on the pitch.
Okay, we've got no sound effects, so we've got no one singing This Will Not Be Beaten. So, Henry, would you do the honours? Do you fancy it?
I don't know if I'll be able to do Steve's high-pitched effort, but
right,
I'll give it
go on then.
This will not be beaten.
Mark?
This will not be beaten. It's Christmas.
We ain't going to be on X Factor.
I'm going to say.
I don't know.
Hang on. This will not be beaten. I win, don't I? I win that, don't I? I'm the Alistair Cook of the podcast. Right, what's the nap then, Mark?
My nap's in the Bundesliga this weekend. Borussia Mönchengladbach 4-6 to beat Mainz. Gladbach have won 4 of their last 5. Mainz look like a team who could be relegated this season. Scored once away from home in 4 matches. I always try and steer clear of the FA Cup, so I've headed abroad this weekend for the best bet.
Henry?
Bolton at home to Norwich. Bolton had a slow start to life in the Championship, but they were missing both of their best players, Sammy Omobi and Josh Feder, at the start of the season. Since they've come back, they've beaten Sheffield Wednesday, they've drawn against QPR, Fulham, Sunderland, all games they should have won, really. And I think they look a good price. I think it's 13-5. Paddy Power.
Guess what I was going to nap?
Oh, you go
Norwich to beat. I'm just not going to have one. Right, we'll be back with Sunday's games in just a moment.
Check out Paddy's new VIPP Club. Get a £10 free bet every week when you place 5 bets of £10 or more. Max £10 bonus per person per week. Excludes shops. Selected odds. Conditions and exclusions apply. 18 plus. BeGambleAware.org.
Right, welcome back. It's the Racing Post Football Postcast. Bruce Millington, Henry Hardwick and Mark Langdon looking ahead to a trio of TV treats on Sunday. 12 o'clock, we've got Tottenham versus Palace. 2:15, Man City, Arsenal. 4:30, Chelsea, Man United. What an amazing triple header that is. It's going to be absolutely superb. So we'll start with the game at Wembley, 12 o'clock, Tottenham versus Palace. Mark Langdon, I'm so hopelessly underprepared. I don't have the prices. So tell us what's going to happen while I frantically jab away at my phone.
Well, of course, you're off to Wembley for this one, Bruce. I don't think you'll see Palace get their first away goal. I was looking at Tottenham to win to nil at 11-10, but I think I'm going to be slightly more adventurous and go for the 1-0 at 7-1. I know most people will expect a thrashing here for Crystal Palace, but actually Tottenham have been at their best this season when they've been able to counter-attack against teams, Liverpool, Borussia Dortmund, Real Madrid. In games when teams have sat back at Wembley, they've had much more sort of trouble. They had the 1-0 victory against Bournemouth. They were leading Burnley 1-0 until Wood equalised in injury time, and the Swansea game was 0-0 when probably 1-0 would have been about right. So on another day, we could have been sat here and saying, well, Tottenham have beaten all these, sort of lower teams, if you like, in terms of their status within the Premier League, all by 1-0. So I was looking at that. I mean, Palace outside of Zaha don't look like they've got a goal in them. And I think if they are 1-0 down, I think Hodgson, I don't see him chasing the game. I think he sort of quite happily, almost take a 1-0 in a way and think, okay, that there's easier tasks to come. I don't see him wanting to get beat like he did at Man City or whatever in Manchester United. So I think, it all depends when the first goal comes. If they can do what sort of the other teams have in terms of frustrating Spurs, it could be a sort of more narrow victory than many anticipate.
What do you think will happen, Henry?
Slightly different from Mark. I fancy Spurs and over 2.5 goals, 4-6 Paddy Power. Obviously, great result in midweek for Spurs, and they're absolutely flying. I think it'll be a good atmosphere there. They seem to be more comfortable playing at Wembley now, and it's just hard to see Palace keeping them out. Really, this would have copped in 5 of Spurs' last 9 games. Palace conceded 5 at City, 4 at United, even 4 at Bristol City. I know it's like second team in the cup, but still. And also, there's a slightly different angle, which Palace seem to have improved since they've gone with this Zaha-Townsend dynamic. So they do carry a little bit more of a threat than perhaps they did earlier in the season. Alderweireld is out for Spurs at the back, so maybe they could have a sniff of a chance. But either way, Spurs thrash them, you cop, and if Palace nick one, you still probably likely to cop as well. So that'd be my angle where they're going.
Wilf always plays well against Spurs, by the way.
I imagine that Aurier will probably come back in for his speed up against him, and Sanchez as well up there. So maybe Tottenham are better equipped now. Just Palace 2 shots on target combined in their matches against Liverpool, Man City, Manchester United, and Newcastle, which doesn't bode well. They had 4 against Burnley, who obviously were sat back. So I mean, it'd have to take a change in emphasis really from Roy for them.
I mean, it is absurd that a Premier League club literally does not have a single fit forward. It's just pathetic. It's ludicrous, but we are where we are. I'll tell you one thing though as well. All these. Do you remember Danny Rose with his, I want us to buy players that I don't have to Google? Those guys that you mentioned, Aurier, Sanchez, they've been absolutely brilliant, haven't they, Mark? I mean, it just shows, doesn't it? A, how stupid that remark was, but B, how brilliant Pochettino is.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, he identified sort of areas of weakness, if you like. The one thing they lacked at the back was pace, and they probably did overpay for Davinson Sanchez, a club record transfer fee, but he's got so much pace that the others are much better around him. Aurier and Trippier just offer you different threats down the right-hand side, and Trippier, I think, is probably a better example of how good Pochettino is, because him and Davis, I mean, they've come from Burnley and Swansea, and they're playing really well against Real Madrid, and that's down to the coach rather than...
Trippier, most underrated player in the Premier League right now. I would suggest I've managed to dig out some match odds. 1-4 Spurs, 5-1 the draw, 11-1 Palace. So punters are going to be on the back foot if Palace do get anything at Wembley, but they've still got 2 more great chances to get out of trouble, because at 2:15 on Sunday, we've got Man City versus Arsenal. Man City 2-5, 4-1 the draw, and 6-1 Arsenal. Henry, 6-1 your beloved Gunners for a league match. That's amazing, isn't it? Are they a smidgen of value at that?
I No, I don't think so.
They're not, are they? Let's be honest about it.
I was saying to Mark before we come on, Arsenal have only lost 1 of their 9 games against City, but that's soon to be like 2 out of 10. But yeah, I like Aguero first scorer each way. The last 3 games he's started against Arsenal, he's scored in all of them. 2 of those were the first goal. He come off before Jesus at Napoli in midweek. So he looks likely to start against Arsenal, and it's just impossible to see, him not getting like at least 5 or 6 chances against Arsenal's defence. I mean, I think there was a thing said that when Arsenal switched to this 3 at the back, they sort of improved, and their results did improve when it happened. But I think that was just more of a case of they were playing rubbish teams, and I just don't think it suits Arsenal's way of playing, because they can't get they've not really got anyone to bring the ball out of the 3 at the back, and they can't get the ball forward quick enough. And they don't really look defensively any more solid than prior when they were playing 4-4-2. So yeah, I think City, Aguero first scorer each way is the way to go. I mean, City scored 3-4 goals, which could easily happen. He's going to get 1, and hopefully it's the first.
Mark, what do you reckon, mate?
Yeah, it's hard to get that Liverpool 4-0 out of your head when you're thinking of this game, because Liverpool and City play a similar way. City just do it better. So I was looking at Man City to win and over 2.5 goals as one option, because Arsenal with Ozil, Sanchez and Lacazette, if all 3 of those play, I mean, will carry a threat that not many can sort of match, I think, in the Premier League, it's fair to say. So that they may be able to get something on the counter themselves. Other options, 2-1 and 3-1 at 7-1 and 9-1 respectively. I do think that Man City, in America, they talk about public teams when they talk about betting. I do think that City are very much now the public team. They score loads of goals. They're great to watch. They're thrashing opponents, so it's hard, I think, now to get massive value on them to win matches, because bookmakers know that Man City are going to be backed and put in every single accumulator every single week now, because they have become very much a public team. Wonder if the sharps, as they call them in America, will soon start going against them, but maybe we haven't even got to just how good City could be yet. And when they're going off, 4s on at West Brom or whatever, I think that says it all about. So you are struggling to get value on City now, so I'd maybe just go to the correct scores where Arsenal can play their part in what should be a fabulous game.
I think I'm going to look for a price for Xhaka to be the first player carded, and again, has anyone seen any ability in this guy? Like we're used to bad footballers costing a lot of money now, but this guy Xhaka is absolutely in a different league, Mark, isn't he? Tell me if I'm wrong.
Well, he did well in Germany. I mean, maybe it's the coach, maybe he's not, maybe the team's not set up. I mean, I always think it's hard for any individual. I mean, let's take Messi, the greatest player on the planet. When he plays for Argentina, apart from when he got the hat-trick the other month, most games he doesn't look that good. And people say, well, why is that? And I think it's because the actual team shape and philosophy, it's a team game, football, and quite often it's hard for the individual if the team framework is broken. I don't think Arsenal fans have seen the best of Xhaka, because, I mean, who's his best partner? What style of play do Arsenal play? You couldn't nail down what they actually try to do, and so I think that's probably as much of the issue as Xhaka not settling maybe in the Premier League.
Okie dokes. 4:30 Chelsea Man United. What a good game this is, and it's very competitive on the betting front as well. Paddy Power 6-4 Chelsea, 2-1 Man United, 21-10. Henry, what's your poison here?
United draw no bet. I think you've got to keep the draw on your side here, given that Jose Mourinho seems to do everything he can to not win matches, especially against the big teams. I just don't like Chelsea at the moment. They were bashed by Roma in the Champions League. They should have lost the home game against them. They've been beaten by City.
Pox against Watford.
Yeah, rubbish against Watford. Palace beat them as well, didn't they?
That's Exhibit A.
They're not solid enough at the back. With Kante, Mike return, he gives them a bit more protection. But when he's been out, they've looked all over the place at the back. Any big side they've come up against this season, they've struggled. Arsenal should have beat them. And I just think United draw no bet. They've got a few injuries, so I would want to keep the draw on my side, because you can easily see Mourinho just trying to get a 0-0 or try and nick a goal like he has done in every other big game this season. But yeah, that would be my way to go.
Kante's so important for Chelsea, and he might.
Oh, he is, yeah. I mean, the fact that he was close to playing against Roma and then didn't suggests that maybe we'll come back for this game. And I was looking at Chelsea to win it, actually, and it's with an almost heavy heart saying that, because I understand all the problems that they've got at the moment. But United, away to the fellow Big Six under Jose Mourinho, 7 games, scored 1 goal. Lukaku's getting... Well, I don't think he was even getting that much bird from the fans. Mourinho seems to have created a problem that wasn't there when he started having a go at the supporters. They weren't having a go at Lukaku in the first place. The goals have just dried up a little bit for him. And I just think that they're so negative in these big matches that they're asking for trouble. I mean, if Dele Alli gets a straight boot onto that chance rather than hooks it, they probably would have lost to Tottenham. Against Liverpool, De Gea's saved them, but they went to Stamford Bridge twice last season and lost both games. It's not a great betting heat, but I think I'd rather be on Chelsea just because United in these big away matches just don't seem to turn up.
Let's talk about the non-televised Premier League game that takes place on Sunday, which some people might think is one of the better betting opportunities. Everton under fire, really, really struggling like mad, 11-10. Watford are 13-5, and the draw is 12-5. Mark, what do you think here? You've been pretty down on Everton recently. Are you going to carry on?
Yeah, I mean, I've been down on them. I can't believe people thought that they had a good summer. I still thought they'd finish 7th, but I mean, they had a terrible transfer window. Joey Barton's very harsh criticism of David Unsworth did make me laugh, though, when he sort of said he looks like a PE teacher and he's too fat and stuff like that. But I mean, he looked like a caretaker trying too hard to me at Leicester, making some big team calls. We're bringing back Aaron Lennon and Morales, 2 wingers to add pace to the team. But what can you do about that defence? I mean, it's so slow. It's so average. I think the Watford, not sure they'll win the game, but I think maybe a draw, because if they set up reasonably defensively, I mean, where are Everton going to create the chances? I mean, it's been a shocking season for them. I don't agree with colleague Dan Charles, who thinks they're in a relegation battle. I think that they are too good for that, but don't think the points will be coming against Watford, so maybe the draw.
I was thinking actually about that since Joey Barton said that about Unsworth. Who is the most successful fat football manager there's ever been? I mean, have we had many? I suppose Steve Evans used to be, but that's very much at a lower level, isn't it? I mean, can you think of any good fat football managers?
I went to the playoff final, I think. It's a League One playoff final, Rotherham were in it. And I was sitting right behind Steve Evans, Rotherham Orion, I think. And for like the whole game, all Steve Evans does was like put his trousers up over his belly, literally the whole game, like that. Well, Benitez is quite tubby, isn't he?
I suppose he is, yeah.
Fat Spanish waiter, don't they, at Stamford Bridge? I mean, Big Sam got the Big Sam reputation.
Isn't he just big rather than fat, though?
Yeah, I think he's reasonably big boned. There's probably all them pints of wine he sinks in Chinese restaurants or whatever when he's been. I think there probably is something in, if you, as a footballer, I'm assuming you'd want somebody, if somebody's sending you to run back and track back you or whatever, you'd probably look at the manager and think, well, could you do that? Or most of them do tend to be, on the fitter side, look after themselves. I think there is something in that, yeah.
Who's going to win out of Watford and Everton, Henry?
Watford, I think they Everton had a poor summer transfer window. The place that they need to address was at the back. Williams and Jagielka, there's just no pace there. They signed Keane, who is younger, but he's just too slow. So they've got real problems there at the back. I think that is their main problem. As much as made as they're saying they haven't got a forward, which is an issue for them, but I think that is a bigger problem. And Watford had a great window. They made probably one of the best signings, which was the manager, Marco Silva. Fantastic manager. They've got a really good squad there. Plenty of attacking threat. Deeney, Kaka, Gray. Yeah, I think Watford look a tasty price here.
If you're only watching one match this weekend, Henry, what would you be watching?
Well, I'm an Arsenal fan, but I'm going to give that a miss this week. I'll probably watch Chelsea United.
Are you going to a firework display this weekekend?
No, I'm working actually. I'm working.
How old's young Henry now?
He's going to one, yeah, but I'm not. I took him last year to Ali Pally, really good one, like because you not only get that show, but you get everyone in London because you see them all. But Henry Jr. is 12.
You can put your towel down for the darts and then the snooker as well.
Presumably you got to take Frankie along, haven't you?
We're going. Well, my mum's going to do some sort of firework thing on the Sunday, so I watched the Tottenham game at home. Then drive round before the Man City one starts. I won't watch any of the fireworks. I'll sit in the living room and watch the Premier League games. I think Man City Arsenal will be brilliant, so I'll watch that.
British Cup Saturday as well,
yeah, British Cup Saturday, yeah, it should be good. And also some great jumps action as well.
This is Bayern Munich as well on Saturday. It's all up then.
Oh, blimey, this is good. So, join us tomorrow for the racing postcast, and then we'll be back next Thursday with another football postcast, hopefully in our swanky new home in London South Bank. So, look forward to seeing you then. If you like these shows, do please rate and review and subscribe on iTunes.
Check out Paddy Power's new and exclusive Cash Card Plus, available to use online, at ATMs, or even down the local. Paddy Power, you beauty!